Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome. My name is Jean Chiser. I work at the Alumni Association here at Boston College. And tonight we are pleased to co-sponsor this program with the Church in the 21st Century Center. They do so many wonderful programs, and I hope that you are familiar with them. You can certainly check them out online as well. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about desire. And as we met over the summer to plan our Advent offering for this year, our committee unanimously agreed that we wanted Father Jack to talk and we wanted him to speak about desire. I had been told that it's one of his specialties. He grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and entered the Society of Jesus in 1991. He is trained in counseling and has worked in prison ministry, hospital treatment centers, the education apostolate, and formation within the Society of Jesus. Presently, Father Butler is the fairly newly named Vice President for Mission and Ministry here at Boston College, and he is a well-loved preacher and presider here on campus. Please help me welcome Father Jack.
Well, it's great to be with you tonight, and I hope this works. You know, everybody's starting to say that desires are controversial. So, I mean, I'm newly appointed VP. I could get fired tonight. So don't let Father Leahy know anything about what we're about to talk about, except he already knows it because he's a Jesuit. And desire is incredibly important to us Jesuits. And as we enter into this Advent season, think about it. Already, I don't know if you have small ones in your life anymore, but the little ones have been coming up in my family, and they've been saying, "Uncle Jack." And I go, "Yeah? What do you want for Christmas?" And I know what they want me to ask them is, "What do you want?" But I go, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I go, "I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet." I said, "Do you know?" They go, "Yeah." And I just keep it silent, and then they'll go, "Aren't you going to ask?" There's something really wonderful about being a child. Not childlike. Remember the distinction that Paul makes. Not childish, but childlike. Kids know what they want. Now, they don't really know what they want, but in the immediacy of growing up, they know what they want, and they'll ask for it. They'll ask for it. And they know in the process of asking for it, even kids know that just because they ask doesn't mean they're going to get it. And if you ever go shopping with little kids and you're going through the supermarket, they'll see something and they'll want it, and mom or dad, whoever is there, is going to say no. And they're going to keep asking. And if that doesn't work, they keep crying until mom or dad says, "Enough!" And they stop. They know how to refine their desires. Growing up, maturing, is the process of refining your desire. What you wanted at 6, what you want at 12, what you want at 25, what you want at 65, what you want at 85, there's a line and there's a string, and if you really look at it, they're somewhat connected, and growing up and maturing is coming to apprehend your deepest desire. So how does all this fit together? Honest to God, you mentioned it. I just gave a similar presentation. It was on formation, and in the talking about formation, I was talking about the desires, and I was talking about to the VPs of operation at BC. And our lead counsel here put up his hand. He's a very bright man, far brighter than I am. He's far more refined than I am, and he put up his hand and he goes, "Jack, do you mean desire?" I go, "I think I mean desire." Do you no, you don't. I go, "Yeah, I think I do mean desire." He goes, "Desire is sexual." I said, "Some desire is sexual, but not all desire is sexual, and even that isn't bad." And that's what I want to talk to you tonight. St. Ignatius of Loyola had this great line. Find your deepest desire, and you find God's will for you. That before you were a twinkle in your parents' eye, in the act of love, in the very act of God, because in 1 John 4, God is love. In the very act of love, when you were created, God put in your heart a desire. And that desire was God's wish and will for you. And all all of us spend a lifetime trying to find out that desire. So what I'd like to do is talk to you for about, another 20 minutes. I'm going to throw in a little bit of prayer there. They pay me more when I pray. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of prayer. And then we're going to open it up. We're going to open it up for questions. And then you can rip me apart. You can challenge me. Because, honest to God, I'm a red-blooded, stamped American Jesuit. I love to fight. So you can argue away with me, and I'm going to go with it. How did Ignatius come to understand desire? How did he come to understand desire? He had no interest in God, really. In fact, St. Augustine, we know, had an illegitimate child. We think so did St. Ignatius. He got in trouble. He was in prison. Rumor has it he might have even murdered somebody. We're not talking about a paradigm of virtue here. And then in the great battle, the cannonball comes, shatters his legs. One leg horribly. He has to have surgery on it, and surgery's nothing like they do today. It was brutal, and it was grotesque. And in the process of healing, because he loved to wear the tights, because he loved flirting. He loved women. And he noticed he had a bump on his thigh. And he said, I can't have a bump on my thigh because my tights, it looks unseemly and no woman will like me. And so he actually went back and had more surgery to have it cut off. This crazy man, I joined his order. Can you believe it? And they sent him to the castle. And he started to recover. And there was a woman in the castle that wanted to sort of inspire him and try to change his life. So when he said, I'm bored, what is there to read? She said, there's nothing. Nothing in the whole castle. He goes, there has to be something. She goes, well, there are two things. We have a book of the lives of the saints, and we have sayings of Jesus. And he said, that's it? And she said, that's it. So he started to read them. And as he read, he started to dream. He started to have fantasies. And sometimes he would have fantasies of being the great soldier, the great hero. He had fantasies of romantic love. He had fantasies of finding this woman that he could rescue and that she would be unbelievably, undyingly in love with him, and he would have her forever. And he thought it was great. And when he would go to bed, he said, the sweetness in my mouth was delicious, but after a while, it turned sour. And then he started to read the lives of the saints. And at first, it wasn't about following Jesus. He read about Francis and how wonderful Francis was and well known and how powerful he became in the eyes of the people who believed. And Dominic. And he said, I can do that, and I can do it better than he can. And so he started to dream about great works where people would give him great adulation. And he said, when I went to bed, there was sweetness in my mouth. And it lasted. And then he started to get the insight. These desires, if he stayed with them, the ones that weren't real, the ones that weren't going to take him somewhere, the sweetness became sour or dried up. But the ones that gave him life, the ones that pulled him along, he stayed with, and it led him to somewhere. And it was recovery in that bed, fantasizing about romantic love and chivalry and being a great soldier, and the desires about being a great saint and doing great works of charity. It was from that beginning he realized God was calling him. And then after that, after he set up the exercises, he started to ask Jesuits, do you know what you want? And that's how we're going to end tonight with a prayer. He actually gave a scripture passage that he wants all Jesuits to start prayer with. He said, do you know what you want? And he told Jesuits, don't be afraid of what you want. Be brave enough to follow it. Be brave enough to find out where it's leading you. And see if it gives you peace, if it makes you feel more authentic, or does it shake you up? Does it make you less authentic? Is it the sourness in your mouth? Now, as a young Jesuit, I believed it. As a young Jesuit, I was taught how to do it. I was taught how to give the exercises to elicit desires from people so they could find God's will. But I thought that was only religion. Then I found something out. This desire thing, this movement of God, this thing that was put in our hearts at the very beginning of our conception, our deepest desire, which is God's will to us, is universal. And I want to tell you 2 stories where I found it out. I got my doctorate, and I did it in Baltimore. And when I was doing my internship and my residency at a psych hospital, we had an outpatient thing where we'd go to different corporations and we would help people transition when corporations were downsizing. And they would send a psychiatrist out, and he would be the one that sort of oversaw the medical stuff. They'd send me out as the psychologist, and I would talk to you about, sort of what was going on in your life. They sent an internist out to do physicals and to make sure you were healthy. They sent a nutritionist out to help you to eat right. And then they sent this woman called Amy out. Amy was an organizational psychologist. Now, if any of you in this room are psychologists, you know the lowest form of psychologist is the organizational kind. Us counseling people, us clinical people, we don't think the organizational people know anything. So we went into this big, huge corporation, and we looked, and they were all these older men. At that time, there wasn't even any women in the room. There were all these older men, and you could tell they were not pleased. They didn't, they're losing their jobs. They're being downsized, and they knew this was a scam, and all these people are coming in. And so we get up, and the doctor gets up and talks about what he's going to do, and the psychiatrist gets up and talks about what he's going to do, and I get up and talk about what I'm going to do. And then Amy gets up. And she's perky, and she's bouncy. And she goes, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to do it right now. And you can see all the men's faces like, oh. You could almost hear the groan. And I'm not joking. She goes down and she picks up this stack of, the old construction paper, the multicolored paper. She goes, I'm going to hand this out. And I'm sitting over there thinking, oh, my God, Amy, don't do this. Don't do this. She goes, and then I'm going to hand out crayons. And the guy, you're laughing. These men are getting ticked. And the guy who's spending probably at that time $40,000 to have us come in and saying, what have I done with my $40,000? And she gets up and she goes around and she's all excited. And then she puts the stuff down and then she goes, now I want you all to close your eyes. They drew the line. They said, no. She goes, okay, you don't have to close your eyes. She goes, but I want you to think back when you were 12. What did you do? What did you play? What captured your imagination? And I want you to either write that down on the construction paper or draw a picture of it. And at first they didn't do anything, but God love her, she was persistent. She says, I'm not sitting down till you do it. And all these older guys, they did it. One by one, you start seeing, writing it down. Team broke up. We were there for a year. I worked with this man who was the senior VP at this major corporation. He came to see me every week. His life was a mess. He had gone through 2 marriages. He had absolutely no contact with his children. He was an alcoholic. He had all sorts of trouble. So I worked with him. The team worked with him. After the year, we did our thing. I leave. I don't think much about it. We've done this at lots of different corporations. I forget about it. Some friends come into town with little kids. Their dad's a great baseball fan. He wants to go to Camden Yards to see, and the game isn't on, and they have tours at Camden Yards. So I said, I know where it is, so I drive them down. We get out. We start going in, and there's a ticket thing, and you go in, and there's a little plaza like this of memorabilia, and then you get in the queue to start to go on your tours. And all of a sudden, I hear, Jack, is that you? And I say to the kids, come on, we're in the city. These are weird people. And I put them around me. And this guy comes out, and he's wearing like a 1920s baseball outfit. He's got the high knickers. He's got the cap. I'm scared of him myself. And he comes bouncing up to me. He goes, "Do you remember me?" And I'm looking at him. I had to fess up. I said, "No." And he gives me his name. "You came to," and he gave me the name of the corporation. "We worked with each other for a year." I go, "Oh my God, yeah." And I'm thinking, boy, we didn't help this sucker. And so I say to him, "How are you?" He goes, "I'm great." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, tell me, what's going on in your life?" He goes, "Great things, but I want to start telling you about here at Camden Yards." He goes, "Do you remember Amy?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "She was the best thing that happened to me." Now, he must have seen it on my face because he immediately said, "Oh, you were good too." Because I'm like, "Hey, what about me?" You know? He goes, "The best thing about Amy? I thought really hard, and I worked with her what I played when I was 12 and what captured my imagination. I always wanted to be a baseball player. And she convinced me, then why don't I do something with baseball?" And I had all these great answers. You know, I'm an executive, and I have status and money. And she kept pushing me, and she kept pushing me. Because I came down here. Because I don't make anything close to what I did. And I made a lot of money, so I put stuff in the bank. So I have it. Because I love getting up in the morning. I'm really happy. I'm content. I said, "What about your family?" He goes, "Well, you know, my marriages are over, and that's gone. My kids, we're working on that." But he goes, "My grandkids, I'm not going to lose them, Jack. I bring them to the park. They get to meet the baseball players. They think their grandpa's the coolest in the world wearing this uniform." He goes, "I have their relationship with them. Because I know what love is now." He goes, "And I was a damn fool because I missed it with my own kids, but I got it with mine. And that Amy, she was something. She told me to go after my dream even though I was 65, and I didn't see how at 65 I could be a baseball player. And she connected the dots for me, and I'm happy. And here I am, the Jesuit." Now, he doesn't know I'm a Jesuit. And a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, oh my God, that's St. Ignatius. That's St. Ignatius. He found it. He was brave enough at 65 to do something that I personally thought was stupid, and he's happy. He found it. The promise of God is, "I'll always be with you." The promise of God, "I will raise you to happiness." The promise of God is, "I'll give you the life." God never promises an easy life. God never promises a title. God never promises a big bank account. What God promises is, "I'll be with you, and I'll help you find your joy." Next story. Next story. This one happened here. There's a couple of students around the time that this, so if you know this name, you can't open your mouth. HIPAA laws say you can't. One of the doctors I worked with in one of the hospitals was a psychiatrist, a woman, and she was married to an orthopedic surgeon. And their first child they had was Amanda. And Amanda, from the day she was born, every Christmas, Amanda got something to remind Amanda what her vocation in life was, and that was to be a doctor. Mommy, the psychiatrist, Daddy, the orthopedic surgeon. I often tell Amanda she's screwed from the start. They knew what Amanda was going to be. She was going to be a doctor. Amanda, every Christmas, got a stethoscope. Got a doctor bag. She got a little white jacket one year, Amanda, MD. I said to them, "You'll be sorry when she's a teenager, she's going to play doctor." They didn't listen to the priest. Nope. But anyway, she goes through high school. They push her. They drive her. She studies hard. She's smart. They know that I go to BC. They come, they visit. She looks around here. She decides she wants to go to BC. She comes to BC. She signs up for pre-med. And this is a good story. She's doing an amazing job. She's doing an amazing job. She's getting really good grades. She goes through her freshman year, does really well. She gets into her sophomore year. She's doing really well. And then she sees a poster go up. And it's for the Jamaica summer trip that we run. She comes on my door one night, knocks on the door. And a lot of the kids, when they grow up, you know, they just, no matter who you are, they call you aunt or uncle no matter what. So that's what she called me. So she goes, Uncle Jack, I think I'm going to go on the Jamaica summer trip. And I said, that's phenomenal, Amanda. That's phenomenal. Mike Sacco runs it. It's a great program. She goes, do you think that's okay? Yeah. Do you think my parents will be okay with it? How? Of course they're going to be okay with it. So she goes off. Again, don't think anything of it. She comes back. Summer's busy. I don't see her. We start the year off. I see her a few times. We're probably into early October. I open it up. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Uncle Jack. Not a good response. So anything wrong? I want to talk. That's a really bad thing. When they come to your room and say they want to talk, bad thing. I say, come on in. She comes on in. She sits down. So what are you thinking about? She looks me right in the eye and she goes, I love Jamaica. I said, that's good. Tell me about it. So she's telling me about the kids. She's telling me about her. What did you love most about Jamaica? I love teaching. I love teaching. And nothing's registering yet with me. I'm like, oh, that's great. And I'm supporting her. And then she says, Uncle Jack, I want to be a teacher. And I go, oh, no, you don't, sweetheart. Honest. I said, you really don't. I said, you're getting good grades. You've always wanted to be a doctor. She goes, I think I want to be a teacher. And I go, why? She goes, I felt it. It's like down deep in me. I want to be a teacher. And I said, well, do me a favor. I said, we're going to have a plan, 3 things. She goes, okay. I said, plan 1, we do not tell your parents. She says, okay. I said, plan 2, I want you to go down to the Dean of Education, Joe O'Keefe, and I want you to talk to him about teaching. She goes, okay. And I said, plan 3, we'll see if you can get in, even though it's late, into an education class and just, try it out. But I said, you got to discern. You got to go slow on this. Don't see her. Week before she goes home for Thanksgiving, I open the door. Hi, Uncle Jack. Hi, Amanda. Can we talk? Sure. I'm going to go tell them. Tell them what? I'm going to be a teacher. I go, no. She goes, yeah. I said, no. She goes, yeah. I said, not at Thanksgiving, please. She goes, you think that's a bad idea? I go, really bad idea. Do not tell them at Thanksgiving. You sure? I go, yeah. She comes back a couple of days later. I got to tell them. I love them. I've never been dishonest with them. I got to tell them. I swear to you, I say to her, just don't do it during the meal. Wait, Friday, Saturday before you go home, drop the bomb on them. But don't do it Thursday. Okay, Uncle Jack. Thursday night, 12:07. Phone rings. Now, at that time at BC, I did a lot of the crisis response. So the phone ringing at 12:07 wasn't any big deal. I pick it up, and I hear this screaming, what have you done to my daughter? Of which I yell back, nothing, I'm a priest. And then I hear all these expletives coming out. And said, I'm spending $50,000+ a year for my daughter to go to BC to wipe snot off of kindergartners. And he starts yelling at me. And honest to God, I start to smile. And I said, St. Ignatius, you got it right again. This Jesuit education worked. She found what she wants. She found what she wants. Let's help her get there. Today, many years later, every Christmas, I get a card from her saying, I'm a teacher and I'm happy. Love, Amanda. She went through hell. Daddy and Mommy are still not thrilled with me. I'm thrilled as anything. Just a little thing, and then we're going to go into a prayer. And then questions. I love when students come up to me. It used to happen much more than it does now. Because they're mad or they're angry or they're growing up. And they say, Father Jack, I don't believe in God. And I say, I don't care. And they look at me like, what kind of priest are you? And I say, my provincial asks me that all the time. And so they go, didn't you hear what I said? I don't believe in God. And I say, didn't you hear what I said? I don't care. And so then they go, no, I'm serious. I don't believe in God. And I would say this to them. If you have a standard idea of what God is, if you have a standard belief in God, if God's all-powerful, if God's all-knowing, if God has all and everything figured out, if God is God, I'd say to the young man or young woman, God doesn't need you to believe in God. God's going to be fine whether you believe or not. But the more important thing is, I tell our students, God believes in you. God believes in you. And what I want to tell you tonight is God believes in you. God's always believed in you. God believed in you from the day you were conceived. God believed in you from the day you were born. God believes in you today. And God's desires and God's wills and God's wishes are placed in you because we're one with God. That I might be in you, you might be in me, that we might be in each other. A paraphrase of John. These desires were placed in our heart, Ignatius believed, by a God who believes in us. By a God who believes in us. By a God who loves us, and a God who inspires us, so that we will respond by finding our deepest desire to get self-actualized and to find the joy that was God's gift to us in the person of Christ, so that we go out and change the world, so that we stop making priorities money, status, relationships that we think will get us ahead. We start realizing, what's my desire? Do I have the courage and ability to go after it? And when I do, will I trust that God will change the world through that? Because my desire and God's desire is one. So said St. Ignatius, when you find your truly deepest desire. So here's the prayer we're going to end with. Then we're going to have questions. This is what Ignatius asked every Jesuit to pray. So I'm going to ask you just to get a little bit comfortable. Hold on. I got to see. She's going to yell at me if I'm way too late. Oh, no, I'm right on time. Oh, good. Okay. He's going to yell at me because I didn't stay in between these things. St. Ignatius said, before you start the exercises, I want you to do the blind Bartimaeus. So we're going to do it for a little bit. Only for about 5-10 minutes. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. And I don't want you to be talking about what you were thinking about or praying about. That's between you and God. I am not your spiritual director. I'm more interested in fighting with you. Okay, so get as comfortable as you can. Now, Ignatius says, before you pray, oh boy, she didn't like it. Bye, Lauren. Get comfortable. Ignatius said you always start a prayer with a prayer. So I'll do the prayer. Then Ignatius said, you always start a prayer. Ignatius said, you always start a prayer by asking for something. And then Ignatius then goes into the meditation. But before he did that, I forgot. Ignatius says, become aware that God is gazing on you. Not that you gaze on God. Become aware that God is gazing on you, like parents to a newborn, with wonderment and awe. God is gazing on you. Become aware of that. God's not looking at you with anger. God's not disappointed. God is just purely looking at you and saying, wow, I made you, and you're amazing. Become aware of that. Gracious and good God, we ask you to send your Spirit upon us. We ask you, please, to allow your Spirit to help us speak with you, to be with you, to love you, and to find our deepest desire. We know it's a process, and we know it takes years. But even now, help us to discern the thoughts and the hopes, the dreams, and yes, the desire you have placed in us. And we ask especially that we have a deeper heartfelt knowledge of your Son Jesus, who is the fulfillment of all desire. And so, my friends, I ask you, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, do it. And as I read this scripture passage, I'll read it quickly and then we'll walk through it. I hope that you can see it. And I'll walk you through it. They came to Jericho, and as he was leaving Jericho with his disciples, a sizable crowd formed. Bartimaeus, a blind man, son of Timaeus, sat by the roadside begging. On hearing that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me. Many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he kept calling out all the more, Son of David, have pity on me. Jesus stopped and said, call him. So they called the blind man and they said to him, take courage, get up. He's calling you. Bartimaeus threw aside his cloak. He sprang up and he came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him in reply, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want? And my friends, now see it. Put yourself in a place with people that you can see and you know and feel the air. See what kind of day it is. Is it warm? Is it cold? What is it? See it and feel it. Become aware of what you're wearing. Become aware of the people around you. Hear the sounds in your imagination and just stay with that for a second. Now over the ridge you can hear commotion and noise. You're wondering what it is. You can't really focus on it, but you hear the people around you talking and mumbling. Something's happening and it's coming towards you. Become aware of the excitement. Become aware of the tension. But also be aware again of your surroundings, the kind of day it is. As the crowd gets closer, the noise gets louder. The people around you become more tense and more excited. And all of a sudden you hear Jesus' name and you get excited. This is the one that people say can do miracles. This is the one that says he can heal. This is the one that seems to bring new life to people. You know you have things in your heart that you need, you want. You know you have things that need to be healed. Start to get excited to have this conversation with God. You can hear it getting closer as you stand up, and so you yell out, Son of David, have pity on me. Yell it out as loud as you can. Son of David, have pity on me. But notice, my friends, the people around you that tell you to be quiet. People that tell you to be still or to shut up. Make sure you hear them too. You know who they are in your life. But shake away from those that tell you not to go after what you want or who you are or what you desire or tell you to be quiet. Yell out again, Son of David, have pity on me. And hear him say, come. Call that person over. Hear him say that. As you get over to him, allow him to reach out and touch you, either on your arm or hold your hands. Allow him to orient you to his face. Become still before him. And hear him when he says, what do you want? What do you want from me? What do you want me to do for you? Hear him ask, what do you desire? And my voice is going to go still for a bit and try to have that conversation with Jesus, and then I'll invite you back. I don't want to rush the conversation, but know that Jesus is going to be moving on soon, so spend some time. Before he goes, let him touch your cheek. Shake his hand, hug him, whatever you need to do, whatever feels right, whatever he seems willing to do, you do that. And become aware that he's walking away. And slowly, when you're done, come back here to BC. Open your eyes. I'll finish up and we'll go for questions. My friends, as I bring this to an end and go to have questions, it's Advent. It's the season of hope. It's the season to get ready for the greatest gift that we Christians believe is possible. God becomes one of us. The Father sends His Son. The gift of gifts. It's the time of desire. It's the season that even little kids know they can ask for what they want. For these next few weeks of Advent, to have the faith and the courage to spend some time with the prayer that we Jesuits start all of our retreats with, by standing before the baby who's grown up and taking the risk to tell him what you really want, and having the faith that he'll challenge you back till you find that really deepest desire. Ignatius did. So much so he started a group of men that believed in it, who still do it today with friends and colleagues like you. I end with saying what I end just about every Mass with. So these folks that have gone, if you didn't believe anything I said tonight, that's okay. This is what you have to believe in. You are loved. You are deeply loved by a God who gave up everything to become one with you. You have a God that is proud of you, that will always be with you, and never doubt for a second that you're loved.